Oh, I can make this stand up straight. There we go.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Kristen McCracken from IndieWire Playlist, and we're here talking with Richard Ayoade. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah.
Whose premiere of the film The Double happened last night.
Yeah.
How did that go?
It seemed okay.
You wowed the crowd. They loved you.
I think they were very tired. It's quite hard to tell, I find, in that generally, although you're aware of an audience, often when you're watching a film, it's quite a personal or solitary experience. You know, you're in your own thoughts. So, but people laughed more than I thought they would laugh at things, because
It's quite funny.
hopefully, but it's a lot of comedies built on a reaction shot traditionally, and without that it can be difficult, I think, sometimes to feel that you have permission to laugh, especially if you're watching something for the first time, because you have this slight worry as to, well, you know, what's happening next, am I going to miss something? And so unless it employs the grammar of comedy, it can be hard to know whether it's meant to be funny.
So why this story? Have you always been drawn to the existentialists? Dostoevsky in particular?
Well, it was R.V. Careen's idea to adapt the book, and I wrote it with him, and he felt it was a great part for an actor, and it's something that it feels that in some respects is particularly suited to being a film, because it's one of the things films can do well, is show something happening in real time, and so that actual effect of uncanniness, you know, the Freudian sense of uncanniness, is quite suited to film, because it can show something that you know is impossible. So you can't see two of the same people in real life, but you are being shown a representation of it that is completely real looking, and that creates a sort of odd sensation. And yeah, I mean, I like Kafka and Gogol and those things, and there's something, I think, very funny about Dostoevsky's ability to, I don't know, like, say Notes from Underground, there's a very funny whole section where at one point the hero, someone bumps into him, and he's really offended at how the person didn't even look at him or take him in, and he resolves that he's going to find that person, he's going to bump into him, but he doesn't manage to muster up the confidence, so he keeps swerving at the last minute, and this goes on for 2 years. He keeps going up to him and he swerves at the last moment, and then he finally decides he's going to do it, so he dresses up in his finest clothes, he buys new clothes for the occasion, because he says, if there's going to be a scandal, then I want to be dressed in my finest clothes. And then he just slightly bumps into him, and to me that's, you know, it's like a Curb Your Enthusiasm plot, like there's nothing antiquated or difficult or, you know, heavy about it. It's just like a brilliant idea,
And universal.
yeah, and completely silly, and because, you know, he is canonical, there's an idea that, okay, those people are medicine, you know, though people like that, they're not fun, they're just what you have to look at, or what you have to look at under duress. But, you know, to me there's nothing more exhausting than watching or reading something that isn't good.
How did you and Avi work together in terms of writing?
Well, he, as I say, it was initially his, well, it remained his initial idea, and so he wrote a draft, and then I really liked it, and then we met up, and then we started talking about it, and then he did another draft based on our conversation, and maybe there's another one, I can't remember, and then I did a draft, and then we did one together, and thereafter I probably did drafts but then with
So you just
Avi,
would send them back to, you would send them back.
and it was great, and the time when we wrote together was just so enjoyable, and I really liked. He lives in Nashville, and so, you know, I'm sure if we lived in the same city, we would have done more of that.
Right.
But it was a pleasure, and every time you got something from Avi, it was just so perfect, and everything in it was great, and he's such a terrific writer. It was a pleasure.
How did you settle on the tone? Were you worried about being either too dark or too comedic? It feels like it fit the perfect balance. But was that a matter of trial and error, or did you?
It's hard to know exactly, because hopefully it comes from the story and the character rather than being an arbitrary stylistic imposition on it. So in a way those things happen more, you know, in advertising or something, where someone says we want this to be offbeat, which is a categorization that you never would think of ordinarily, but it's just how something is described after it exists in order to describe it to other people or something. So
it just kind of is what it is.
In a way, I suppose it's sort of probably something's tone ends up being just how you like or are able to say a thing. So in the same way, your tone of speech is in some ways indicative of your character, but in other ways isn't, and can be an accident of birth and circumstances or education, or be a misdirection as to what you are. I guess similarly, tone is probably reveals something about what you feel about it, but hopefully not in a direct way. But primarily it has to be something that is appropriate. That's the main thing, and it feels that the feeling of the story is that this situation is quite absurd. You know, it's an impossible situation, but one born out of a kind of psychological crack-up, but which is the idea that someone else looks exactly like you, no one notices, you have to explain to other people that this person does look like you. Once they realise it, it doesn't bother them, is an absurd, funny dream. And so, yeah, the tone
Had to match.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about working with Jesse and Mia, and then also the rest of your cast? There's so many cameos and interesting people involved.
Yeah,
including your whole cast from, or much of your cast from Submarine.
Yeah, I think more or less everyone from Submarine was in it. Jesse is great in that he combines two things that, well, there are several things. One, I remember Mike Nichols saying that really good actors are able to somehow entirely inhabit a character, but also in some ways show you what that character is like without feeling like they're not involved. And he has that ability to be very precise and show you the correct things that you need in order to tell the story of it, but without being outside in, I guess you'd call it. So there's no sketchiness to it. And Mia is, I mean, she's one of those people that if anyone can get Mia to be in their film, they do, which is because there are so few people with her ability. She's very clever and has an enigmatic quality that the character of Hannah needed, in that Jesse's character is obsessed with her and you never quite know what she's thinking. And because the whole film's through Simon's perspective, it's a hard part to do, because I guess normally films are often more objective, and you get to know what characters' motivations are for yourself, and then you see dramatic ironies, and you know that character wants this and this character wants that, and they're at loggerheads. But with films like, say, Taxi Driver, which I love, you aren't really sure what Sybil Shepherd's character wants. You can guess, but it's so through his eyes that it's a hard part. She has to make that three-dimensional, but the purpose of the story is to show what he thinks more than what she thinks, I guess. So.
Well, Cameron Bailey called you one of the sharpest wits in the business last night. So, congratulations. That's a nice welcome home to Toronto. Yeah.
You have to say something, but that's very kind.
So, congratulations.
Thank
I
you
hope
very
it's going
much.
to be a big hit.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you, Kristen.